If the people around you tend to be healthy, whether that is emotionally healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy, your odds go way up, especially the odds of conscientious discipline and design. Your ability to surround yourself with people who are in a good place is one of the great gifts of our life. We are social animals. A lot of what we do in life is mimetic, meaning we kind of copy what we see of others. We set expectations on ourselves of what we see of others. A lot of our behaviors, our habits, our mental models are really a fact of sociology. And when you understand that the people you surround yourself with, you talk with, you look at, you work out with, you're around, you're healthier. I am a greatly healthier person in my life because of my wife. And for most men out there, or those who are partners in couples where one other partner is healthier than the other, that's one of the greatest gifts of all time. You know, I'm a way healthier person. I don't think I knew what kale was until I met Denise. I had no idea. Broccoli? What? How come it's dark like that? Is there no cheese on it? So that was important for me to learn a lot about. All of my friends in the health and wellness category, like being around them all the time and seeing their posts and their Instagrams, or being at conferences and studying their work, or going to conferences that are about health, surrounding myself in an ecosystem has made me healthier. It really has. If you look at where I grew up to where I am now, I mean, it's totally different peer set, and that was by design. You might not get to choose your biology or all your family, but you get to choose your peers and your friends and the inspirations who you follow or learn from, especially in this category of health. Once you have that energetic vision, I promise you'll surround yourself with better people.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, have a battle board.
When we don't have a vision for next week, next month, next year, life can start to feel like we're just in, kind of in the swamp, and that we're just going through the motions. And, oh my God, I'm working so hard, Brendon. Or, oh my God, Brendon, I have all these reasons to be happy. I already have the great kids. I have a house. I can afford the car payments. I mean, I have all these reasons to be happy, but I don't know, something's missing. I don't feel purpose either. It's usually a disconnect or lack of clarity about your future. And I don't mean 10 years out or 50 years out. I mean sometimes next month and next year. Really, just sometimes it's just a couple month horizon and lacking clarity and connection with just the next couple months. Or in some cases, if you're a longer term strategic kind of guy, the next year or two. I can feel that. If I feel a disconnect for my next year or two, I tend to lose a connection with purpose, a connection with motivation. I feel like the intentions or the productivity of the day are kind of like, for what? It's easy to go, I'm working so hard, but for what? And that for what, I know, equals vision. What is the vision of your next couple months or next couple years? No one will give you that. It's time to sit down and think about that. It's why you all know I keep a battle board over here on the wall. And my battle board is it's basically like a arts and crafts version of a yearly schedule. It's like a big piece of butcher paper with 12 boxes drawn on it. And the 12 boxes each represents 1 month of the year. And I create themes across the boxes. I write the major projects and deadlines up on the boxes. And I write a bunch of my values up there. And all I do is every day, I just kind of stare at it. I'm a person who am really good. Any persons here, you're really good at just living in the moment. I know a lot of people aren't good at that, but I'm really good at just being here in the moment. I've had to teach myself to do that. I'm not as good of making sure I'm connected to my vision or to a longer term plan. I'm like in the moment, I'm a happy-go-lucky kid. But if I lose connection to the vision, to the future, the happiness goes down. I also see the luck tends to go down when you're disconnected from a vision. So what do? I force myself every day when I come into this office I'm like in a home studio here. When I walk in, I stare at that and I force myself to just stare at it and think for 5 minutes. I have a little notepad next to me and I look at where everything is lining up over the next year, sometimes the next 2 years. And I just look at it. I mean, if you walked in, it's really not an attractive thing. I'm kind of like this. I'm just standing there kind of dumb looking, just looking at it like, hoping something comes into the brain that day. Walking through each month, even if I saw it yesterday, I'm just forcing myself to look out. You know why people tend to be motivated January 1st? Because they're looking out again and they hadn't done it for a while.
Rule number 3, improve personal accountability.
Accountability means, you know what? My credit card bills, those are mine. I'm accountable for handling those. Instead of avoiding them, I am personally responsible to deal with these. Even if I didn't cause all these problems, I am now the person who, if I'm going to clear the problems off my plate, I got to take some personal accountability for that. I am now the person who gets to choose my attitude today. I am now the person who expects myself to follow a higher standard and to follow through. Accountability, personal responsibility or personal accountability says, okay, I'm going to own this reality. I'm going to plan my way through it. I'm going to follow through. And I'm going to set up checks and balances to make sure I do that. Where that's setting goals and tracking and measuring the goals and my own behavior towards those goals. Or getting a coach, sharing socially in the community, or talking with your friends and family and putting it out there. Now your butt's on the line and you got to do it. I think that's what's important. So often we say, I have dreams. I'm not going to tell anybody. And often in personal development, you hear people say, no, tell people. Because once you verbalized it, you can realize it. Once you verbalized it and it's socialized, now there's an expectation you follow through. Here's my question to you. Do you have enough expectations to follow through? Often when I work with CEOs as their executive coach, what ends up happening is they have that kind of, maybe they have investors and their investors expect them to stay on path. Maybe they need to hit their quarterly goals. But what ends up happening is sometimes they start feeling like their accountability is driven by others. And often high performers feel all these obligations. They are accountable, but they're accountable to obligations that other people have set. And if you want a real fast track to being demotivated, stop setting your own plan. Stop setting your own accountability. This is why, for me, as I told you, I go in my plan section of Growth Day every day. I look at a lot of those plans. I'm like, I'm behind on this. But I don't get discouraged. I just make a plan on how to handle it. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I don't like my score here with my friends. I went 3 months without really talking to my friends. I don't get down on myself. I make a plan. I don't fall prey to that victim part of myself that says, but all these other things are happening and oh my God, I just go, okay, got it. I don't like that. I'm the only one in charge of the ship. You're the only one in charge of those scores. And once you realize that, you're like, okay, I'm accountable. What's my plan? Because sometimes you left your accountability to your boss. You left your accountability to your manager. You left your accountability to your spouse. You left your accountability to the kids. You left your accountability to somebody else and you didn't internally own it anymore. If you've ever been in my seminars before, I'll talk about this for a while and I'll get the whole audience up. We'll play this music, we'll do the lights, and all of a sudden we'll have everyone start shouting, I own my dream. I own my dream. I own my dream. To help them realize again, they're the owner of their life. You own your dream. You own that impulse in your heart that says to get better. Once you're the CEO of your life, not just a follower, everything shifts for us. And that's accountability.
Rule number 4, look at your tomorrows.
If you are struggling with the sense of purpose today, You are lacking a routine or a practice to look at your tomorrows. Raise your hand if you got that one. If you are struggling with purpose today, you're simply lacking a routine or practice to look at your tomorrows. I tell everybody, you want to be a better leader, you want to be a better parent, you want your health together, you want to build a bigger business, you want to earn more money, you got to look at your tomorrows way more consistently. Not on January 1 or December 31st, but daily. That's why I force myself to look at a year calendar every day, because I'm not good at that. And I know that about myself. And sometimes when you're not good about something, you need to create a habit or routine that you will stick to and find some joy in. So usually before I get to that wall, that battle board, I got a cup of green tea in my hand because I love it. I got a journal next to me because I love that. I love green tea and I love journaling. I'm not so good at the vision part, but I've created the routine. Just like on email, I've created a routine there that helps me go through a process that I know I need to do, but I'm not as good at. Y'all follow? So this is what I'm suggesting to you. If you're lacking vision, we need to practice to look at your future more often. So critical. It's why when you do that morning mindset prompt in Growth Day, one of the questions asks, what's a project I should keep in mind that I'll be doing in the future that I might not be able to do today, but I just need to keep it on the dashboard of my mind? And people always ask, well, when I do this thing, it's kind of the same thing every day. I got to, I wrote down, I'm going to write a book one day and I got to write it again and again. I'm like, yes, you have to again and again and again think about your future, even if you're not doing anything for it today. Even if you're not taking the action today, you have to think about it. Right now I'm working on some major media projects. I'm not doing them yet, but I'm thinking about them. I take a moment to think about that project, just trying to get in the unconscious, kind of scrolling around back then to connect me to the future. Because when you feel connected to the future, especially when it's something that you are choosing to go do, to go build, to go manifest, you will feel more purposeful.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, boost your health.
Today, I get to share some ideas with you on health that I've learned in my own personal journey, but also as a high-performance coach for 16 years. One of the fundamental, most important things that we all want in our life is a sense of vitality. And that vitality is we want to feel, mentally engaged, alert, focused, enthusiastic. We want to feel energetically, like physically energized, right? Physically, we want to feel a sense of that health. And it's one of really the only 4 things that we all deeply desire. We talk a lot about it here in Growth Day, that you can give anybody anything, but what we all really truly want is aliveness. That's what I mean by vibrancy, connection with others and with ourselves, meaningful pursuits, things that we're doing that we enjoy or see as important or contributing, and growth, like growing as persons. So all of that is really important, but that sense of aliveness, I always put that at the top of that little diagram because it's so important to us. When we don't have a sense of aliveness, even if we have amazing relationships, when we are fatigued and wiped out, we can have the greatest marriage or partner or spouse or intimate relationship, but the zest isn't there. We can have a great job. We can have incredible opportunities to serve. We can love our passions and our hobbies, but if we're wiped out, it doesn't feel as good. I know you all know this. And that is why it's so important that we focus on our health. Now, I want to do full disclaimers with you. I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a neuroscientist. I am not a health advisor, coach, or medical professional in any capacity. I'm a high-performance coach. This means I work with people primarily on their mindset and their habits and their relationships.
Rule number 6, explore self-awareness.
The first big gate of personal development that I believe everybody goes through in their own journey to maturity, happiness, fulfillment, aliveness, connection with others, ultimate life satisfaction, that first gate of awareness the first gate of personal change is awareness. Now, I know some of you already know this, but think about this. In any given moment, we can be aware of our feelings, of our environment, of how our emotions are affecting our minds, of our decision-making, of our surroundings, of God, of universe, of connection to this very moment. In any given moment, awareness can ebb and flow, can't it? And sometimes in your life, I know some of you feel this way, you're going so fast. There's so much on your plate. You're so busy at home and at work. Everything's going 90 miles an hour. And it's like, it feels like you're so torn from happiness or torn from the moment that you don't feel connected. And that is when awareness is sort of out the door. And that's why in the last decade, the topic of mindfulness, went from sort of a subtle art to like a societal need. And as all of the research has been showing in the mindfulness research of how that can make us feel more grateful, happy, appreciative, loving, connected, and kind, and resilient, it's become more and more clear that people get this. But you don't go through the gates of awareness all the time by choice. Sometimes it's pushed upon you. I know many of you have had that story, just like I have in the past, where you weren't ready for change. You might have been resistant to change. Does anyone have any family members, team members, people in your life who are resistant to change? It's just like you're around people and you're like, why won't my husband change? Or why won't my child want to be better? Or why won't my kid do better in high school? Or why? It's like, we all know somebody who just doesn't ever shift into that. And what you need to know, I'm going to make you sort of a casual coach today, or an influencer, or a leader today. We'll use all that under the term of influence today. If you want to influence others, you have to understand they're not going to start taking action to change until they've gone through the gate of awareness. And sometimes that gate of awareness, you can inspire it, you can role model it, and sometimes life just has to happen for them. We all know people like that. It's not a judgment. Sometimes you can't be responsible for everybody else in their lives. You got to let life be their educator.
Rule number 7, learn to handle conflicts.
Please remember, anytime you have a frustration or a conflict or an argument with another person, please remember you are dealing with a trauma survivor. Please remember you are living with a trauma survivor. Please remember you are working with trauma survivors. You yourself have survived traumas and struggles, unfortunate incidents, brutalities, difficulties, awful situations in your life. You survived them. You're still here. You're still working through. You're still showing up. You're still working on yourself. If you can put the humanity in the other person and realize they have also struggled and, more importantly, survived traumas, this will allow you to now be more compassionate, empathetic, patient, and understanding. Because raise your hand if you think sometimes you're in a conflict with your spouse, your partner, or someone at work, and they might be acting out from old triggers and traumas. Raise your hand, right? You think you're fighting about the vacuum cleaner. They're fighting about something that happened in the 5th grade to them. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. The person you're dealing with in that moment, we always teach like freshmen in college about conflict. You're not actually there in the moment with that person. One of you is probably in high school or in elementary school. You're in a situation or a moment in your past that's being triggered to bring up all these emotions, and you're acting out from the emotion. That's usually unconscious for most people. Isn't it true? The more therapy work, the more coaching, the more perspective, the more self-improvement, the more healing you do, the more you're aware of those things coming up, and they will come up, as we'll talk about in my next point. But if it's true that something's come up for you and it's uncontrollable or it's upsetting, it's happening for the other person too. I had a great interaction with a person at work one time that I learned a lot. I was very much, I know this is really hard to understand, but I was productivity Brendon. You know, I was like, man, I was getting stuff done. It's hard to keep up with me. I'm like, I schedule it, I show up, I deliver it. I schedule it, I show up, I deliver it. And I do it with a positive mindset, and I'm going to make it happen. Like, that was really, really strong in who I was in my 20s, right? And I remember having this conversation, and well, there's no better way to say it. I was a kind of a condescending jerk to somebody at work. I was not nice to this person at work. Early 20s, probably, just starting my career in consulting. And a partner at the company saw the interaction, and she pulled me aside, and she asked a question that changed my life. She said, Brendon, if you knew that person was dying, how would you have handled that situation? And I was like, whoa. I mean, it was like, I literally went into tears. Like, immediately, the second she saw it, she said that. Immediately went into tears. It was like, whoa. Now, let me ask you that. Think about the last argument or conflict you had. What if that person was sick? What if that person was hurt? What if that person was dying? Trust me, I know how the pessimists and the people who don't like personal development would receive this conversation right now. Oh, Brendon, here he goes. You know, I get it. Trust me, you're not the first persons I've trained on this topic. Oh yeah, sure, Brendon. Now I'm supposed to, every time I think about having an argument, think of that they're going to die. Sure, it's practical. Maybe it's not practical, but maybe it's spiritual. And I say that because there's not a single person you're talking to who isn't dying. Not a one. You won't meet a person your entire life who isn't dying. That's what we call in our work mortality motivation. When we can see humans as mortal, when we can realize it's a short stint for all of us on this planet, everything can shift a little bit.
Rule number 8, think ahead.
If you don't feel this day, it's very likely tomorrow you're going to be like, I don't feel purpose. And you forgot that feeling the moments of life, that's presence, is part of purpose. And to feel them even more, you bring in intention to it, right? To feel the day, you have to have the intention to feel the day, right? Intention precedes feeling. But most people don't know that. They have a feeling, then set an intention. I don't like this feeling, I'm going to change. But when you become more conscious, you say, oh, I'm going to enter this next situation intentional. It asks, what is it that I would love to experience or make happen in this next moment? Oh, I'm going to go play with the kids, or I'm going to go teach my kids math. Okay. I'm going to go teach my kids math. Let me not just show up, plop the book down, look at them and go, what are we doing? But instead, say to yourself, okay, I'm about to go teach my kid math. How would I like to do that as a parent? How would I like to show up? What would I like that learning experience to feel like between us? Father and son, mother and daughter. What do I want that to feel like? Even if they don't learn well today, what do I want the end of our learning session to feel like for them? What association do I want them to create with learning math today? Now notice, that took me, I think I clocked it right, just under 30 seconds to ask those questions of myself. Intentional living doesn't take that much longer. It's like a beat before going into the situation. Let me take a second here to enter the situation more intentionally. That is the process of bringing purpose to a situation. Right now I'm using and replacing the word intention with purpose for a specific reason, because people get all lost in airy fairyland when they talk about purpose. But ultimately, purpose looks a lot like daily intention. And the more daily intention you have, research shows the more you say you have a purposeful life. Notice, it doesn't say you earned more, built more, did more. It says the more daily intention you have, the more you sense your life is purposeful.
Rule number 9, get a coach.
I recommend to everyone get a coach at some point, because you need someone to have that sounding board who asks you next time where you're at in your development or in your progress, or where you're stunted, or whether you're crushing it, and helps you tease out those lessons so that you stay motivated and clear about the next steps. And that's why I think it's so powerful. Often the biggest shifts in our life happen when we're accountable. Sometimes it happens when you work with a coach, or some of you become a coach. I've never been more accountable for my life, or had so many other people become so accountable for their life when they became a coach. Because once you're a coach, you're accountable to help someone grow, and that instantly raises up your awareness. Just like many of you, when you get a teenager and you start talking to your teenager about health or mindset, and you realize you're a little off, it makes you more accountable, because as soon as you teach it, you're even more accountable to live up to it. Remember that congruence thing? It's a beautiful thing. The best I ever became in my life is once I became a coach. Because once I was a coach, it's like, oh, level up your identity, Brendon. You got to follow through on these things. You have to be congruent on them too. Woo! You can't go out on the stage all the time tired, like, come on, everybody. It's like, I had to learn to take care of my health, that I could literally manage a 38-foot, stage with thousands of people. And for multiple days, it was like running a marathon every single day. I had to be accountable to that audience because I was teaching it. And it was like, oh, soon as you put yourself in a role of a leader, a coach, a mentor, a role model, a caregiver, soon as you're in that space, you gain positional accountability. You realize, oh, I better walk this talk, because if I don't walk this talk, not only will they notice, I will start to dislike myself. I share that. I rarely share one of the big gates that happened for me after my car accident. It wasn't just the car accident that made me want to live, love, and matter. It was after the car accident, I had to sit with the reality that I had built the life I didn't intend to. I had set in motion that relationship that wasn't the right relationship. I chose the wrong person, despite some red flags. I allowed abusive language to happen in a relationship. I allowed, I'd say, resentment to carry on. I had done some things, and I had experienced some things that I didn't like, and I could accept them. They did. But now I was accountable for building that next relationship that had to be better. I had to make that next relationship better. It was on me. I was the captain of the ship, the director of the destiny. I was the director behind the movie set, watching that character evolve. I was choosing the next act. That's accountability. That's a great thing to have in life.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is reflect on the changes in your life.
if you think about maybe the 3 biggest times of your life that you changed, like those big, what they often call in psychology, those inflection points or those critical incidences. What were the 3 times when just major shift happened in your life? I promise there was a major gate to awareness that opened up for you. Either it was an insight, an aha, maybe you're like Eckhart Tolle, you're just laying in bed and all of a sudden, woo-wah, awareness and presence enters your life. A new level of consciousness lands on you. Wonderful. Maybe you had to go through something. It was a divorce, a business ending. You got fired. Somebody said no. You got in a health challenge. An accident happened. For me, as you know, an accident happened. I got in a car wreck, and it was the ultimate perspective check. At that point in my life, I thought I wanted to die. At that point in my life, I'd been suicidal and depressed. At that point in my life, I didn't see that my life could ever be abundant or happy or loving. I didn't get it. And then that car accident, bam. And that was like a knock on the head, literally, that opened up my eyes and made me realize, oh, I don't want to die. I want to live. I just don't know how. And that was my awareness. It was, I want to live. I don't know how, but I've got this second chance. And I understand I want to live. I understand I want to love. I understand I want to matter, but I don't know how. And that began a lifelong journey in personal development, and then psychology, and then philosophy, and then neuroscience, and then high performance studies to try and just understand, how do people change? Well, maybe as you're listening to, what were those 3 big things for you? Maybe it was a health thing. Something happened with your family. Maybe that was when you went off to school, or when you had the birth of your first child, or something happened and it shifted you into another level of awareness that said, I want to improve. I want to get better. I want to be healthier. I want to be happier. And if you haven't had that yet, then let me knock on the door a little bit and say, hey, this is a great time to gain some greater self-awareness. Without greater self-awareness, we aren't resilient. We aren't authentically confident. We aren't vibrant. We aren't healthy. We aren't able to deal with all of the chaos without conforming to everybody else. The moment we lack self-awareness is when the impulse to conform to everybody else enters. The moment we lack self-awareness, we don't know how to ask for what we need in an argument with our partner or spouse. The moment we lack self-awareness, we make a bad decision that we knew wasn't right for us. It's always the first thing, awareness. People with good mojo, they have more joy and enthusiasm for what's coming up and for what they're experiencing. So in this present moment, they're taking it in more with a great level of appreciation and gratitude. And because they're doing that, they're kind of playing with the moment right now. There's joy. It's kind of like they're that person who's opening that gift at Christmas. You know, they don't even know what's in it. It could be a small gift, a big gift, but they're excited. You can see there's enthusiasm for unwrapping this gift. Well, they bring that same joy and that same enthusiasm to unwrapping this experience that we're gonna have together, for unwrapping this moment, for even if they're just at the restaurant waiting for the meal, they're excited for the meal to come. There's an amazing mojo around them because there's enthusiasm. You know, they're breathing life into the moment. They're feeling a sense of excitement for what's about to come next. So they're so fun to hang out with because it always feels like something's about to happen, because you can just sense that energy from them, that they're excited and appreciative of the moment. Integration. What does that mean? I was talking about this with so many friends who have had so many wins, right? Successes, and they don't feel like a success yet. So good things have happened to themselves, but they haven't integrated that they are good, right? It's that person who never feels satisfied, who always feels a lack, who never feels high self-worth. Why? Because even though the good things are happening, even though they've made things happen, they've never put their hand on their heart and integrated the good things into their identity. So everything else just bounces off. That if we want meaning and fulfillment to happen in our lives, when meaningful things happen, we have to integrate them into our life. We have to say, that was meaningful. And you almost have to pull it right into your body, in your mind, in your heart. You have to say, I felt that. It's like I was recently at a wedding, and it was funny to see how different people participate and see and experience weddings. To me, it's just like I'm taking so much of it in. And I wouldn't say because I'm an empath in any way. It's just because I go, you know what? This is one time, one day this gets to happen for them. Let me enjoy this with them. Let me bring some joy to this with them. And let's make this day meaningful. People know to do that. Make this day meaningful. Make this day meaningful on a wedding day or on a Christmas or on your birthdays. And then the rest of the days of the year just blur on by. Well, I think that first you have to choose to make it meaningful. That's what we do at weddings, right? But then you also have to stop and feel it and integrate it. I had a great mentor of mine when she found out I was getting married. She said, Brendon, here's what I want you to do. At your wedding, on your wedding day, after the ceremony, I want to make sure that you pull aside your bride, Denise, 3 different times and make a meaningful moment with her and really integrate it into your memory and into your heart. It's the best piece of advice I got ever about my wedding day. It was like, right, make a moment, feel it, and really integrate. Take a moment to pause and take in life. Your newborn is finally starting to walk. Those are the moments where you take that in and you just pull it in. You integrate that into your life as a meaningful moment. But a lot of people don't take that same idea when they have successes in life. Good things happen. And so even though they have all the reasons in the world to be fulfilled, they don't feel fulfilled because they've never stacked or integrated all those good wins. They haven't taken a moment to think about them and to feel them and to be grateful for them.
Practice positive projection. What that means is you should be assuming the best about your partner and projecting positive traits and ideas onto them. Assume that they are doing their best. Assume that they are thinking of you. Assume that they are trying to do things for you. Assume that at least they're not trying to cause any harm. And this is a tough one, especially if you've been in a relationship a long time, because you've probably already discounted me and this video just because of that piece of advice, right? You say, no, Brendon, you don't understand. My person is always a bastard. My person is always trying to do this to me. They're always trying to do that to me. And hey, look, I don't know your situation. That could be true. But what we do know from relationship science, and it is a science, and you can study communication, you can study the different ways that people connect in their intimacy, in their relationships, in their marriages, and you see over and over and over again that often one partner says something to their other partner, and that person completely blows it up in their mind with this big story about how this other person is, trying to control them. How this other person is clearly belittling them, is clearly being condescending, is clearly hurting them. But when you look at the transcripts of their conversation, you see that the partner over here really just said something very matter-of-factly. And this person who's offended drew all of their past history or some negative parts of the couple's history into that conversation and projected that onto what the person said. In fact, often in conflicts, the person who's the most angry can't remember what the other person even said. They can't recall the exact words. They just said, well, they made me feel this way. And the reality is that person didn't say anything that would, from a third-party standpoint, cue those emotions, would cue that frustration or that anger. But what we all do is we just take what's upset us in the past. We take our old patterns, our old beliefs, our old hurts, and our old pains, and we bring them into our relationship with somebody. And especially in a conflict now, we think that somebody's trying to hurt us. We think that somebody's belittling us when the facts of what they said aren't that big of a deal. In other words, we blow things out of proportion because of our past, not necessarily what is being said or displayed right in front of us. So as a rule, the best thing I feel that we can do in our relationships is to practice positive projection. just assume that the other person is there with you, for you, and in love with you. Think that, what they just said, they're not trying to offend you. They just might be in a bad place. They might be frustrated. They might be tired. They might be distracted. And don't get mad at them. Realize, hey, you know what? This person's doing the best they can. Imagine if we just project if we gave a little more patience to those that we loved, and we projected an assumption that they were doing their best, and that they were in love, and that they were with us, and that they were trying. I think that if you're in a relationship that matters, a relationship that's important to you, a relationship you want to stick with, you've got to start assuming better about your partner. You got to give them credit and the benefit of the doubt again, because you've probably been projecting all your negative stuff, your own fears, your own inadequacies, your old upsets, your bad beliefs into the conversations, and it's tearing you apart. So you got to figure that one out. Practice positive projection.
You want to be more disciplined, you're going to have to delegate more. You want to be more disciplined to what really matters for you, you're going to ask for assistance, for help, you're going to have to build the team, you're going to have to socially engage people to support your focus. It's just real. Like every writer I know who's become a major writer has assistants, meaning they get somebody, their spouse, their partner, their agent, a personal assistant, somebody is helping with the part of their life so they can focus on that thing, right? It's hard to be a disciplined writer if you're doing everything under the sun. You need time to be able to write, which means there's some things you can't handle by yourself. And you're gonna have to delegate that. And if you're like, well, Brendon, I don't have anyone to delegate to, then I'm like, then stop saying yes to everything under the sun. Stop putting more and more on your plate when you can't handle what you already got, babe. We gotta go, no. If I want to be disciplined, I got to choose a few things. Say no to the rest, delegate the rest, and do what is here. You don't lack discipline, you're taking on too much. You don't lack discipline. You're taking on too much, or you don't have a schedule, or you don't know your outcome.
I think for those of you who are really struggling to meet high quality people from your perspective, I can't recommend enough that you get involved with some local organizations that are nonprofit based, and that you start attending more fundraisers, more acts of service. And I know some of you go, I don't have anything, I don't have money to contribute maybe, or I don't have, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, I don't care. Go to a bunch of them and you'll learn what you like. And I will also say this, I know I've been saying this for years, I beat a dead drum a little bit here. But when you go to a fundraiser or you go to a volunteer event, do you know who goes to those? Like you go to a black tie event, like a fundraiser as an example. Do you know who goes there? The most successful, high achieving, positive, wealthy, influential people in that particular community. People who have something to give and in their spirit, in their heart says, I play this role in this community where I'm going to make a difference here. Awesome. Some of my best friends I've met throughout the years, I met either doing the work of contribution or literally on a nonprofit board or at a fundraiser. Because that striving community who wants to make a difference, I can't share with that. But here's the thing, whether you go do that or you don't, the people who are closest to you, if you want to make a difference with them, if you want to deepen that relationship, find a way to make a difference together. Go do something cool that contributes. Go volunteer. I think if you really want the closest friendships imaginable, you go volunteer once a month or once a quarter. You don't wait for it, you schedule it. I want you to be the friend that schedules the contribution. Be that friend. Don't hope that person comes into your life. You're that scheduler. You're that person who sets that up. You're the person that gets them together, because at some point they'll take it over. In all of my greatest friendship circles, I tend to be the person who initiates it, and we do something, and then someone says, I'll do it next time. I'm like, great, just do that. Acts of contribution together. What you find meaningful and fulfilling tends to come from things that you are doing, meaningful pursuits, that you find intrinsically and deeply interesting or passionate.
or even obsessive, in that you're like, I just love this thing so much. And the more that you love something, the more that you tend to find it to be fulfilling. And so we've got to allow ourselves to pursue our interests and our passions to the place of love. That when you have love in your life, you are more in connection with what will make you feel fulfilled. And it will be in more connection of what you will later on ascribe as a meaningful life. I've never met a person in all my years of researching personal development, reading all the great biographies, being with psychologists and sociologists and psychiatrists, and being with people in hospice at the end of their life, never met a single person to talk about, think about, write about, research, or experience a meaningful life absent of love. Not a single, never done it. I haven't read a spiritual text that love wasn't the center of what humankind's meaning is. I've never read any research that has found a happy person who didn't have deep, meaningful, connected, and loving relationships. I've never met someone who attained, the remarkable status of a billionaire or a multimillionaire or the CEO or the most successful person or expert in their field who didn't love what they were doing. Maybe they didn't love it every day, and that's a mistake. That every day is supposed to be perfect and joyous and abundant and oh my gosh, perfect. No, there's lots of days that aren't, but they're on what I would call a loving path. They're on a loving path. They love what they're doing. They might not even know what the career is, but every time they do that one thing, they feel a connection to it that's different than other things. There's more interest, more passion, more depth, more excitement, more something there. And we haven't been taught to pursue those things. Especially when we're young, we're taught to pursue avenues that lead to a specific result that society has said is good. We'll do this job because it leads to that salary. Instead of asking, what do you like doing? What are you interested in? What draws your passion? What do you love actually spending your time on? How do you ensure that a new team member is quickly integrated into the high-performing team? Andrea, two things. Number one, you make sure you understand where that new team member is going to play, and you assign a lead in your company to mentor that person. You make sure, first and foremost, if it's your team, you sit them down, you talk through some of the things that I've covered so far already about what is it that we do here? What are we trying to create here? That you make sure that that person is really clear about kind of like what they're going to be doing on a weekly or a monthly or a quarterly rhythm. Like a rhythm is everything, which we'll talk about. And that they have somebody who's kind of their peer or their guide or their lead over their first 60 to 90 days at the company. It's huge, 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 especially if they're not starting with a group. I tend to like to hire in groups, and I highly, highly recommend that. If you're gonna hire another 5 people, don't hire one in September, one in October, one in November. Be like, okay, I guess if that means hiring people earlier, you hire them earlier, a little later, a little later. But if you can hire in groups, then you create culture. If you're always hiring one-offs, it's harder to do that. So first, hire in groups. If you can't hire in group, hire that lead, make sure that they are very clear on their rhythm, and that will help Andrea Soldat to assist you with how to think through that process. That first thing we all want a greater sense of is aliveness. And I always come back to this, right? Reinvent your life for what? Well, could you reinvent your mindset, your habits, your peer group, your work efforts, so you have a greater sense of aliveness? Aliveness is that sense of vibrancy, of being, of passion, of presence in spirit in the moment. We all want to feel that. The good news is we can usually get aliveness to exactly what Jonathan Fields talks about, which is savoring the moment more. We can feel greater aliveness when we up our health, right? Get better physical health, to have more energy. We can feel that. What else do we reinvent towards? Well, we always talk about another corner of the the triangle of being about connection. Specifically, we want connection with ourselves and connection with other people. This usually is about the area of your life called relationships, right? We want to improve, deepen our relationships, increase intimacy and vulnerability, just feel more real and connected with other people. Sometimes that changes your communication approach with your partner or your spouse. Sometimes that changes your partner or your spouse. I'm just teasing you out. I don't know what you need to reinvent, but it is a major area of concern, isn't it? Another major part of that triangle is meaningful pursuits, right? A sense of fulfillment or meaning in the act of progressing in our lives or creating in lives or leading in lives or building in our lives. That we want meaning and fulfillment, but specifically we want meaningful pursuits. Because some people have meaningful pursuit. They actually have a lot of meaning in their life, but they're not happy. Meaning does not always equal happiness. It always throws people off. They're like, Brendon, I have all the reasons in the world to be happy. I have a meaningful life. I don't know why I'm not happier. I'm like, oh, well, meaning and happy they're different things, right? What can add on to meaning to make it more happy is aliveness and connection, but also pursuit, right? We are human beings. We love to chase something. We love to build something, to be in progress, to be in motion, doing something meaningful does bring us more happiness, right? You can have happiness without everything being perfectly meaningful, right? I can eat a piece of chocolate with green tea and I'm happy. There ain't nothing meaningful in it. It's just a moment, right? So you can have happiness separated from meaning, clearly, but when we are pursuing something that matters to us and brings fulfillment, that makes a difference. And of course, in the middle of that triangle of aliveness, connection, and meaningful pursuits is growth. The sense that we are growing. Now, I've taught you this growth day model many times, so I won't belabor the point, but I do want to always re-aim us at those things. Because after 15 years of coaching people one-on-one and in large groups, there's no question to me that after we have security and safety in some level, those are the things we're always striving for more of. More aliveness, more connection, more meaning, and more growth.
Just try. And what I mean by try is try with other people again. I watch people talk at lunch. They're not really trying to be engaged. They're not really there. And it's great that they're comfortable with themselves, but they're going through the motions. And very few things ever happen amazing when two people are just going through the motions. Because our default going through the motions, unless it's imbued by like challenge or presence or vibrancy, usually our default is homeostasis of just like, yeah. And that is not very attractive, okay? That is not something that gets people's attention. What gets people's attention is when you put an effort to listen to them, to be with them, to be present with them, to change the energy between the two of you, for you to spark something. Stop waiting for good energy to come into your life and start generating great energy, and you'll feel the difference. Try with your energy again, right? Really pay attention to people. Be present with them. They'll feel that you're trying, and they'll appreciate it. I'm not saying faking, right? So if it's not authentic and real, don't do it. But you must try more often to show up as your best self into conversations and to try and pull out the best of others. I think the most sexy thing in a person ever is someone who's trying to pull out the best energy from you, right? Whether they're trying to pull out the flirtation of you or pull out the joy of you or the gratitude of you or that positive range of emotions from you, that's pretty sexy. So try to bring out the best of others. You got to see yourself in scenes in your life that don't currently exist. And what I mean by that is you got to visualize specific scenes that you would love to manifest in your life in the future. Many of you guys know I'm from Montana, right? I'm from this tiny Irish mining town that was economically depressed for a century by the time I got there. And my parents, raising us 4 kids, I literally don't know how they made it. I don't know how they supported us, and we really, really struggled. But somehow, I always could visualize things for myself And I remember thinking one time when I got to college, I was like, you know, I would love one day to live on a beach. And I would love to like get up in the morning, go walk on the beach, swim a little bit in the ocean, have a nice breakfast, sit down with my journal, and then go about the day. I could see myself talking with people and new cultures and traveling. I could see myself being somebody who was a person of influence in some way or another. And I had no idea how all that was going to manifest. But I did not fear to dream, or when the visions came in, I didn't like stop them and say, well, that's stupid because I'm just a kid from a poor town. I did not know that one day I could live on my dream beach. That was not the point. It was that I saw the scenes and I allowed to dream about them. You have a lot of visions and you have a lot of dreams that you have where you just go, well, that's stupid, or I don't like that, or what would they think, or who am I to do that? And I'm here to tell you, explore those visions. Maybe you were given those visions and those visions were a gift to you that you're supposed to manifest. And so what I'd love for you to do is think out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and just try to imagine scenes in your life. Because what most people do is they don't see scenes in their life, they just write down to-do lists and goals. And so every day it's about a to-do list, and they're trying to just be more effective and productive each week, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. So even though they're getting their to-do list done, they got a lot of goals, they're not excited. They're not enthusiastic. They don't have that vision pulling them forward. And so see the scenes that you might have in the future with your family. You know, see the scenes that you would have in your personal lifestyle, like how do you live, what do you do, where do you go? See the scenes of yourself performing or doing your work or your career. See the scenes of yourself happy and fit and healthy, and explore those. And I mean, every day. Like visualization isn't something you do once in a while on a birthday or when it's New Year's. It's like every day. So you guys know I wake up every morning and I stretch for about 15 or 20 minutes if I don't do my morning workout. Then I read some motivation or inspiration for 20 minutes. Then I sit down with my high performance planner. I write down my day, and then I push away from having written down that. And now I just start seeing the scenes of the day. How can I do them with joy and excellence? I start visualizing a bigger picture and seeing just what comes in about my future. I'm consistently engaged in future thinking, future envisioning. And it's not like everything has come true, but I'll show you, the scene that we're in right here, from Montana to this scene, I envisioned 20 years ago. Think about that. 20 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna live on a beach one day. When I lived in Montana in the mountains, as far away as possible, I'm telling you, more is possible than you actually know right now. I've got ideas how to make my team more high performing, but some of these ideas involve organizational changes that would require buy-in from my managers and peers. What can I do to persuade others in a culture where change is often resisted and slow? You know what? Change is almost always resisted, and it's always slow. So the most important thing you can do, Jeff, is to realize the simple phrase. I teach it in everything I do. I might have been in the video. And that the most 5 powerful words in all of leadership is people support what they create. If you want buy-in from people, you have to facilitate a process where they came up with the answers. If you want buy-in from people, you have to facilitate the discussions and the meetings and the decision-making process in which people put their ideas into that hat, because then when it's their idea, they support it. When they had no input towards the idea, they always fight it. If they got to contribute one little piece of it, even if they don't want to do it. And I've had conversations with team members of one of our companies before where it's like, listen, I know you don't like the idea and you're not even sure of the general direction, but I want to make sure you've got at least a piece of it. So what's one thing you could contribute or give to make this more successful? What's one area you could play in what we're gonna do that you might like? And just get them, get their foot in the door of doing something or contributing something or agreeing to something. Because when people have skin in the game, which is their ideas, or they can see their future towards it, when they have that kind of skin in the game, they get excited about it and they support it. The worst thing you can do is go roll out something to everybody that changes everything without having had them participate. Right? Participation gets buy-in. Got it? Participation gets the buy-in.
One unique thing that I do is I find passages from books that I really like. Sometimes it's spiritual text, sometimes it's just something that really inspires me, and I read it out loud. And then after I read it out loud, I give kind of declarations, like self-talk to myself, almost like spiritual self-talk, like, I am grateful today for the positive attitude that I have that's going to allow me to approach my work with enthusiasm. Thank you, God, for an open, enthusiastic mind willing to serve today. I am excited about the things I get to do today because other people would dream of having my career and I get to do it. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to serve today. And I'll say these things over and over myself. It sounds silly and maybe like affirmational, but the reality is it gets my mind programmed to be thankful and to be in charge. Like I immediately, by the morning, by speaking it out, I've taken control of my self-talk for the day. So later on, when overwhelmed self-talk, oh my God, comes in, I'm able to command it and go, hey, Brendon, take a breath, buddy. It's not that big of a deal. Just figure out what's the next right action of integrity and take that step right now. You got this. By speaking to myself every morning in positive ways, I'm more able or more skilled to speak to myself when it really matters. That's your daily declaration. Some people pray to get command of themselves or meditate and say things to themselves as a mantra. It's just learning to control your self-talk in your mind so that when the time is important, you can really do it.
You have to adore people. If you don't adore the person that you are with right now, you have to re-summon that up. You have to look for the things in them that will help you do that. And the way to do that, give them more attention, show them more appreciation. When they receive more attention and more appreciation from you, there will be an energetic change in the relationship. It will turn more vibrant, there'll be more pop in it. And all of a sudden, you'll start to notice that person. They come a little more alive around you. And it'll be easier to adore them because you're like, oh, look, I never even noticed they do these things. That's funny. Or, oh gosh, I never noticed they did all these things for me. I have attention to that now, and I appreciate that now. You'll start to adore them more. When you adore the person with you with more, you do things for them. You do more things for them. You want to see them light up. You start supporting their dreams more. Are you doing that? Because real adoration is getting out of your own way and asking, what is it about this person's life that I can support, that they love to do? Because showing real adoration is showing support. Real adoration is not just doting on somebody with flowers and gifts, though you should do that too. It's about wanting to support their bigger life goals, their bigger dreams. When you truly adore somebody, you want so desperately to see them happy and passionate, engaged, living their own fully charged life. When you really adore someone, you go out of your way to brag about them in front of them, right? When they're there and you're in a social situation, you'll compliment them, you'll brag about them, and you'll make them, like if you haven't made your partner, your spouse, your lover, your husband, your wife blush for a while with a good compliment in front of other people, what are you doing? Right? I'm always trying to embarrass my poor lady, but in a positive way, because I'll compliment her in front of other people and she'll be like, I really appreciate you said that about me, because I want her to feel adored. I want everybody in the community, I want everybody in my life to know how much I adore my lady. So do you have that intention for yours, for the person you're with? Does everybody know how much you adore them? Are you bragging them up? Are you really adoring them personally and publicly? When you do that, you'll notice a different level of engagement in that relationship too, and everything will change because they will feel adored, appreciated, and feel like you're giving them attention. So they'll turn it around. Now they'll give you more attention, more appreciation, more adoration, and there'll be this spark. And that happens between the two of you that you never imagined that you could have. That is what it feels like to live the charged life.
The strongest relationships are built on encouragement, right? We know this from the social sciences. I know many of you guys heard me recommend, for the last decade, the work by John Gottman and his wife in research and relationships. I love that work. And one of the critical things that came out of that was such a simple distinction that happy couples tend to praise each other 5 times more than they complain or negate. And whether that ratio is true in all relationships across all cultures is probably not super validated. But what I do believe is the simple way to break that down is encourage your partner a lot. Encourage them, cheer them on. You know they got a big day, do something. Look, here, I got this on this laptop over here from Denise. Can I see that? You guys probably can't see this, dude. No, I'm not gonna show up. It's a Post-it note that she gave me like 6 months ago. I still have it on my computer. It says, I love you, I appreciate you, I know you are doing big things. I love you, I appreciate you, I know you are doing things. It was just a Post-it note she put on my computer in a really particularly difficult week that I was having. And we're both pretty good about leaving little notes around for each other, especially when we're traveling or we'll be apart or something like that. But also throughout the day. Like she put something over there that she likes or she does. I'm like, I love that. Good job. That's amazing. And we don't say that flippantly. Like we were like, that's great. That's amazing. Like we cheer each other on a lot. And I think that's huge. The ability to encourage one another is so vital. So vital. We're going to dive deep into how do you gain some more emotional mastery in your life so you can handle those difficult times when you get frustrated, when you get down, we get like beat up and like chewed out and spit out by the world. What are you going to do to be your best self? That is the topic of today's conversation. That emotional masteries part, that emotional intelligence we hear so much about, that ability to handle the difficulties and challenge of life with grace or aplomb or being centered in the middle of all this chaos and turmoil. How do you be your best? That's the topic of today. We're talking about motivation at a deeper level maybe you haven't had with me before. The utmost, most important area of emotional mastery is mastering motivation. Now, when I say emotional mastery, you're like, wait, isn't motivation just a topic, an area? I'm like, no, motivation is an emotion, right? A motivation is a emotion that you feel a drive, a sense of hunger, a sense of want, and a sense of desire to make something happen. I believe motivation is one of the most important things we have to master in our total emotional sort of toolkit, right? Because if you can emotionally feel motivated every day, almost everything else can fall in line, right? If you're emotionally motivated to be a better mom, be a better caregiver, be a better parent, be a better lover, be a better entrepreneur, be a better business person, be a better contributor to the greater world, when there's a motivation pulling you forward, out of bed each day, into the office, into real life to be your best, then everything changes. When you lose motivation, you and I both know the loss of motivation is the first gate to suffering. You lose motivation. Now you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't work out. You don't feel like working out, you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't want to do your goals. Don't feel like doing your goals, feel unfulfilled. Feel unfulfilled, feel unsatisfied. Feel unsatisfied, feel like life is meaningless. It is a slippery slope when you lose motivation. But the issue is no one has motivation 24/7 all the time. Motivation is an emotion you learn to cultivate by using your mind, your body, your greater consciousness to ensure that you feel that pull of purpose, that you feel that energy inside that says, I want to create, I want to contribute, I want to be my best self, I want to connect with people. And so motivation is something we're going to have to generate on a consistent basis. I know many of you are at HPA and you hear me say, all the time, you have to learn to bring the joy because the power plant doesn't have energy, it generates energy. Motivation is something the motivation guy, I have the best-selling book of the entire century with motivation in the title. It's called The Motivation Manifesto, if you haven't read it. And the Motivation Manifesto is like, if anything is imbued in that book, it is like this ferocity and this fierceness and this attention to living our best lives, but it has to be like generated. Because even though I'm the motivation guy, there's plenty of days I wake up and I'm like, blah. I don't feel like it. There's plenty of days, there's plenty of moments where just like you, I'm just like, I'd rather be lazy and do nothing right now. And that's okay. That's part of homeostasis. That's part of our human body to want to power down, to relax, to chill out. But too much of that can lead to an unfulfilling life. So we must learn to generate the emotions of drive, desire,
go-gettedness, whatever you want to call motivation. And so it's something that we have to learn to stoke. Motivation is an emotion we feel by either luck or by purposeful, conscious design. I just choose to design it into my day every single day. Motivation is driven by certain things. You have a spark, you have something that sustains it, and you have something that grows it. Okay? The spark of motivation, which is how I anchor into being motivated each day, is ambition. All motivation begins with the desire or hunger and ambition for more, whether that's more depth or more connection or more contribution or more abundance or more wealth or more love. Like, we just want more of something. And that says, I want to go get that. Like, we see a fancier car, it's better than our car, I want to go get that. We see like a deeper love of relationship between two people, I say, I want that in my own life. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Something we see makes us want something, right? Not too far from here, there's a beach that I strolled on vacation, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I said, I want to live here. And it was a motivation. It was a cue. I saw something, desired it, wanted it, went after it. Like, so sometimes it's a visual, it's a cue out in the world that says, I want more of that thing. And ambition can be visually cued. For some people, if you just wake up, I mean, think about it. You wake up, you grab your phone, you're like, you know, and all of a sudden you don't have any motivation. Instead, you look through all this stuff and all it did is make you feel like you're not enough, or it distracted you, or it upset you, or it created, anger, anxiousness. You got to be careful how you're using cues to start your day. I use cues to start my day motivated. And those cues to start my day motivated are things like, I literally wake up and I'll wake up and I'll think of things that I'm grateful for and that I want to give in life. I'll wake up and I'll think about someone I want to do something nice for or surprise today. I'll think of something I can be excited about today. I'll, as soon as possible in the morning, revisit my ambitions list, my goals list. I'll look at them. I'll not wander through the day looking at social media and then, I guess it's time to work and look at my goals. It's like my goals, in the first few minutes of the day, I'm revisiting them. And what I'm doing is when I'm looking at my goals or my agenda or my schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, why do I want this? What would life be like this? How could I go get it? What should I do today to make that happen? And that motivates me. That's my list of goals, my list of ambitions, the things that can excite me. In other words, it's very intrinsic goals. It's intrinsic rewards that I'm after. I'm like, if I go do that, I will feel better. If I could have this, I'd be happier, right? It's not that I can't be happy with now, but I want to pull. Like, if I can have that future pull, that's going to motivate me to go do stuff, right? I have to literally generate that in my mind. And so when I have that connection in the morning, then my takeaway for you is connect with your ambitions every morning, very first thing in the morning. Somehow part of your morning routine, connect with your ambitions. Look at them. Why do you want them? What would you get from that? How would you feel from that? What would that generate? Why would life be more meaningful? Really connect with that ambition every single morning, and you'll start to notice you feel better. Because remember, if you were at HPA, if you've ever attended our event or our seminar, you also know this reality, that motivation wanes with attention. Meaning, if we don't give our ambitions, our goals, a lot of attention, the motivation just goes away. Because motivation is either fueled by our attention or by momentum, right? It either takes reflection or action to generate serious, sustained motivation. Either reflection or action. Because ultimately, from the reflection, that gives us clarity, and clarity can give us confidence. Or action can give us momentum. And when we have momentum, motivation is way easier to cultivate, generate, and sustain, obviously. So these are really important concepts. Every morning, get very close to your goals. Ambitiously. What are those things that you want, desire, need, and would enjoy, and what do you need to go to get it? That's the intrinsic type of things, the things we'll feel good about, that drive satisfaction, fulfillment, meaning, excitement in us. But I also have my extrinsic meaning my external cues or goals or rewards that also I revisit. So for me, example, when I always tell you, wake up each day and at some point say, who needs me on my A game? For me, every morning, I re-anchor down into my relationships. I think about, okay, if I don't show up today and do a good job, then my wife and I have a lower quality of life. Then I can't support my mom. Then I can't support my team. Then all these people who count on me every day for motivation or count on me for leadership or count on me for support, they don't get that from me. And I tap into that reality that if I don't show up for somebody today, then you know what? By the end of the night, I'll feel worse about myself, but also it will impact other people. Because you cannot have real, high-powered mental motivation without a connection to other people. We are social animals, so we have to think about, okay, what should I do? How can I contribute in a way that serves other people? So where that internal one is about self and satisfaction and fulfillment and meaning personally, that's tapping into our own passions, desires, wants, and hungers. That external one is ultimately about service, about giving or taking care of or being the caretaker of other people. And you cannot just keep starting your day. I guess I'll get some coffee and read the news and see what's on social media or hop into the car and listen to trash talk radio or turn on the TV and hope to find motivation later in the day. Like you want to kick off the day with motivation. Like get already in the morning, immediately in a good state of mind. When I'm in a great state of mind, it's like, bam, the day goes. And you know what? If you start the morning in the right frame of mind, motivated, driven, because you're connected to what drives you and what will serve other people, then when you start like running out of gas at noon, 1, 2, or 3, it's easier to like re-spark that flame than to fuel that flame than to start a new fire. Right? Because some people just keep waiting. They don't even think about, I guess I should be motivated until they've lost it. I want you to start the morning with it and sustain it throughout the day by revisiting it. Remember, the secret to all of motivation is revisiting those whys. It's revisiting that ambition that you have for your life, for more, for others, for contribution. That's everything. Right? That's everything. And if you get away from that too many days, too many weeks, too many months, I'm just here to tell you, you're really going to struggle. So I hope that helps. Every morning, everybody, every single morning, I really want you to connect with that. Okay, what am I motivated? What am I driven by? And that's going to really, I can't explain how much that's going to help you. You will feel it and you will know it if you will do it every morning. Okay? Motivation starts in the morning, but it's also sustained by that morning frame of mind. So that's really key. That's the first idea behind motivation. Connect with your ambitions first thing every single day. Give attention to that every single day. Here's something I don't often talk about, but it's important for me because it's very easy for me to be really effective in the mornings. And then that afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, and I can just be like, man, I want to go outside, take a walk, come back, turn on some Netflix, eat some carbs. You know, that can be my afternoon if I'm not careful. So here's what I do. I have a checkpoint in the mid-afternoon to recognize, reward, appreciate anything that I have done today. Anything that I have done today. And that midpoint checkpoint, for me on my phone, I just have an alarm. Mine tends to go off around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It just flashes to me and it says, what's been great today? What's been great today? And so that will cue me, all right, it's time to visit. What's been great today? So I'll just think about something I've done. It could be like, I answered 10 emails today that I've been avoiding. Good job. It could be as simple as, I made that one call, I said I was going to call, did it. I shot that content, created that thing, whatever. Some type of, like, listen, motivation is often driven by recognition. So recognize what you have done so far in the day, early afternoon. Then what I do in order to keep myself motivated even more, because I've set in my mind that I want to be a person who's excellence driven, what I will do is I say, okay, here's what's great so far. And then I ask just a simple question. How do I complete this day with excellence? Just a simple touch point in the afternoon. How do I complete this day with excellence? So I will look at the rest of the day, whether that's 2 hours more, 4 hours more, 5 hours more, 6 hours more, whatever it's going to be for me. And I go, okay, how do I think through the rest of this day with real excellence? And when I can connect with that, I'm telling you, it's just so part of me, and it really makes me want to serve. So please think about having a mid-afternoon connection point to keep yourself motivated. You'll feel a whole different quality of life come in. I promise it's a different experience for people, because most people, they're just running and gunning through the day. They don't realize or understand or accept how challenging it is to lose motivation. And so many people, they've gone weeks without being motivated. They're going through the motions, but there's no energy. There's no emotional pull towards something better. And because they're lacking that emotional pull, what ends up happening? They dog it. They don't contribute as much. They react and sort of create, and all of a sudden a couple of weeks later, they're like, I don't know why I'm so unfulfilled. Well, no duh, you're so unfulfilled because you haven't been tapping into that emotion of motivation. When we lack motivation, it is a slippery slope to suffering. So please recognize that you must cultivate more motivation. What else can you do? Well, I'll tell you, it's like ambition. Attention to those ambitions, effort towards those things. I think all of that is really, really, really clear. But I also really believe that a lot of motivation is simply lost because of fatigue. So let's say you're doing all those things, but you're wiped out. You're tired. Like, a lot of motivation really rests on how you feel physically. If you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you have the flu, it's harder to be more motivated. You can still do it by doing what I've talked about. Re-cue yourself, reconnect with those things. But health-wise, it's really critical for you to say, okay, if I want to be motivated long-term, I need to feel greater levels of mobility and energy in my body. So if you ever hung out around me, I'm constantly bouncing and moving and breathing. And if you've been with me at HPA, you see some of these practices, this breath work that I do, that I'm activating and opening up my body so that my body says, let's go, versus, right? So my body's not like, oh, I ate this terrible thing. Instead, my body says, I feel refueled. I feel ready to go. Let's go. So I manage my sleep, my diet, my health in ways that support my mental clarity and energy. And I know that, sometimes people think motivation is just a mental game. I'm like, yes, but your mind and your body are connected. If your body is lethargic, so is your mind, right? That brain-body connection is real, y'all. And I know you know that. You've been sick, you've been tired, there's other times when you've been out of shape, you feel terrible. So I'm here to encourage you, as I always do. If every single month in High Performance, I have to cheer you on to get in better health, to prioritize your health, to sleep good, to eat well, to move. If I have to do that every single month, I will do that. I will be your champion. I will cheer you on. I want you in excellent health this year. So please hear me cheer that on every single month, because I just know I get you in better health. I get you in better mental health. We get you in better mental health. It's easier to sustain that fire and that drive, that purpose, that motivation. That thing will bring you satisfaction, joy, and meaning. I know you guys get this, but I want to fire you up today. Like, this is something you must fire up on your own. This will be fleeting. Of course it's fleeting if you never look at it. I tell people all the time, no wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Just think about that. No wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Every morning, I'm a deep dive in what's going to motivate me. I get excited about it. I look at it, I'm like, okay, let's go. If I didn't do that, I need coffee.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below, on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from me, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there. People have already figured out the thing that you are struggling to figure out. And the more you are stuck trying to come up with every idea yourself, the harder you're making it on yourself. And this is, man, this is one of the